Okay, here's a bare bones basic editing course for you to get up and running in under 1 hour. So if you've never edited before or have a very limited knowledge of editing, then these are the videos for you to watch. First, we're going to need to install and download the most current version of DaVinci Resolve, free or paid, from the Blackmagic design website. Once you have done this and have the application installed, click on DaVinci Resolve to open it. This is where your project files will be stored. Click New Project on your Start window, title your project, then click Create. This will open up your new project. Okay, you'll see on the bottom right a home window. This will get you back to your project list when you need and allow you to back up your library. You'll see a settings window. This will give you your master settings that you'll be able to adjust for your projects. Okay, also in your settings, you'll want to open up and check where your default working folders are for your proxy generation and your cache files. And it is usually a good idea to allocate these to an external drive. I have these right now to an external drive, but they may be automatically going to your startup disk, which may not be good because it eats up a lot of space. So make sure your cache clip is on an external drive. I already had that set up, and your proxy generation external drive. We can fix that. We can change the location after, though. That's another tip we'll give. And then your gallery stills location, you can keep that on your startup disk if you want. It doesn't use up a lot of space. Okay, in the upper left-hand corner, you will see Preferences. And this gives you, and most importantly, your project save and load. So this is where your backup location and your autosaves are going to go. And you will want to put this on an external drive or a different drive that your projects are on to keep them safe. And also in the system settings, under proxy creation, you will want to either use project settings. This means the proxies will go to where you allocate them in the settings here, or ask when creating. This is a great idea because then you can keep your proxies organized and know where they're going and not accidentally have them build up into a folder that you don't want them to be in. Okay, all of this is important for editing, but you don't necessarily need to be making proxies and such for this first lesson. We'll go straight to the layout. Now on the bottom left tab, if you click this, this will give you your media tab. This gives you access to all your folders and files where you can drag into your media pool, and you can also create folders and subfolders in here to organize your files. Okay, the next tab is the Cut tab. Here you can bring the clips into the timeline. It gives you a streamlined way of doing simple cuts before going into your Edit tab. The main one we're going to be using is the Edit tab right here. And this tab, this is where you'll probably be doing most of your editing. It's also where you can import footage and create folders if not already created in the Media tab. The next tab is the Fusion tab. This is where many but not all effects and animations and so on can be created. We'll skip this one for now. The next tab is the Color tab. This is where you'll be adjusting the color contrast and so on. It can be a very, very complicated process, but we can keep it very simple as well. For basic editing, we'll show you what you need to know to get by. The next tab is the Audio tab. This has greater control of all your audio tracks once you're in there. We'll show you a quick overview of that once we're editing, but you don't really need to use it for simple basic edits. The next tab here, the last one here, is the Deliver tab. This is, you guessed it, where you will be delivering your project or exporting the final edit of your version or versions of your edit for various platforms, YouTube, Instagram, television, etc., etc. Okay, if using the included footage from this course, let's start by navigating to the Media tab, navigating to your footage, navigating to the folder, double click, and you see you have your 4 clips here. So what you can do is drag it into the media pool. Now you have your 4 clips in the media pool, and you can create a new bin and just call this media. Drag these clips into the media, and this will reflect in your cut tab. And you have folders in here, but it's a little bit easier to view when viewing as a list. And right here you have your side tab, so you can navigate subfolders and sequences and such. Check here, there are 2 things you need to know. Master settings. What are the master settings of your projects and timelines that you create? Right here it says 1920 by 1080. And if we go into our clips that we just imported, they say 3840 by 2160. This is Ultra HD at 24 frames a second. It's okay to drag this into a 1920 by 1080 sequence, but if we want to keep things the same as our footage, simply go into here and drag down to Ultra HD, and you can see it's 24 frames, which is fine. And this one here is 24 frames a second, our clips. Okay, now click in your media pool and double click on one of your clips. This will select a clip in your media browser and viewer here, so you can drag forward and back, create an in point, select the letter I, create an out point, select the letter O, and now you can drag it into a blank project or create your own sequence. In this case, I'm going to go back to master, keep things separate, timeline, create new timeline, title it whatever you want, use project settings. In that case, it's going to be Ultra HD like we just set up. Click create, and now when you drag your clip in, it will drag from the in to the out point into your sequence. And a quick tip here, if you do not see your media pool, sometimes you may see that, then just click media pool up on the left. And also, if you do not see if you only see one viewer here, sometimes it's helpful to see 2 viewers, because now when we go into click your media, you don't know, is this the timeline viewer or is this the clip viewer? It's actually both. So when you unselect inspector or unselect media pool, they'll have access to both. So this will be your edit, and this will be your different clips before you drag them in to your edit. Okay, here's a quick tip. If you only want to drag a video in, a segment of video, hover to your clip after you double click it. Right here you'll see it film strip. So this drags only the video in. Or only the audio, it drags only audio. Or if you drag everything, it drags in both. So once you know that, drag in your clips. Now you have your first edit. Now we can watch and trim and adjust. We will not go through every detail regarding the next tools, but here are a few to get you started. First, we will color one of the clips so it is easier to differentiate. Hover your pointer and you will see a bracket pop up. Press down to trim the clip, or if you see two brackets show up and your clips are joined, then you will be slipping both clips in and out point respectively, as long as there are handles on either side. Now, if you have it in trim edit mode right here, and you have brackets with arrows inside, this will slip the clip while retaining the location. Brackets with an arrow outside, this will move one clip while slipping the in or out of the clip beside it. Try this with the arrow and with the trim edit tool to see the difference. And note, when you press down on the bracket, this will show you how much space you have left on your clip. Also, if you have no handles on your clip, meaning no space on either side of the clip, then you will see a red line. Then you have the blade tool, which will slice a clip. Then you have the insert button, which will insert a clip from the browser and push the other footage off to the side. And then you have the overwrite button, which will overwrite the footage right on top of where the playhead was. You have the magnetic icon tool, which will allow you to drag and snap clips together easier. If you unselect it, then they will drag more fluidly. If you select it, then they will snap together. And you have the link icon, which will allow you to select the whole clip or just the audio and video. In order to add a fade out, extend your layer by making it slightly larger, and then select the white dot and pull the left or the right to fade. This works for the video track and the audio track. To adjust the volume of the clip, simply hover your mouse over the volume line and then drag up or down. To fine-tune the audio, simply add keyframes by pressing Alt or Option and clicking on your audio line, and then you will have keyframes to fine-tune the audio if needed. Now, you may want to adjust your clip or add transitions or effects to it. For adjusting clip parameters, click the Inspector tab, and this will give you your scale, position, rotation, pitch, yaw, anchor point, horizontal or vertical flip, cropping, dynamic zoom, composite mode, speed, stabilization, lens correction, retime and scaling, and super scale. Effects and transitions. We'll keep this one short and go more in depth in future lessons. To access the effects and transitions, select the Effects tab on the upper left. Here you will have access to your transitions and effects. You will also have access to fusion effects. You may notice that some of these effects may not be available if you only have the free version of DaVinci Resolve. Under Video Transitions, you'll see that there is a red mark. This means this is the default or standard transition. You can change this by right-clicking and changing it to a different transition. To create a cross dissolve, simply drag the transition on the border between two clips in the timeline. In order to lengthen or shorten, simply drag, or open up the inspector on your right and adjust parameters as needed. To create a quick transition, you can just control-click the border between two clips and then select Option for inserting to the default transition. In this case, this will be Cross Dissolve. Again, to change the default transition, simply Control or right-click the transition in the effects. For titles, we have a similar workflow. Drag the title into the timeline, select the title, then select the inspector to adjust parameters. For effects, again, a similar workflow, unless it is a fusion effect. Simply drag the effect into the timeline and then adjust the parameters with the inspector. Now we are going to skip the Fusion tab and go straight to the Color tab. Okay, color can be a little finicky, but we will show you the bare basics of how to adjust some of your clips. Select your clip, make sure your nodes in your timeline and your waveform is open. Select your primaries and color wheel tab. In your waveform, generally, you'll want your blacks to reach near the bottom and your whites to reach near the top. Select Lift to lower or raise the blacks, and select the Gain to raise or lower the whites. And select the Gamma to raise and lower the mid-levels. Also, you'll have access to the temperature, tint, contrast, pivot, mid-tone detail, color boost, shadow, highlight, saturation, hue, and a Luma mix. For skin tones, there is a hidden skin tone line, which will turn on here. Make sure the skin tones are generally on this line. If they are of either side, then it might be a little bit too warm or a little bit too cool or a little bit off hue. Adjust with your primary controls in order to move the skin tones onto the skin tone line. We could easily spend another few hours in the color section, but we'll leave that for another lesson. The most important thing is to get your basic blacks, whites, saturation, and skin tone in check. You should be good to go. Okay, our next tab is the Sound or Fairlight tab, and this is where you have further control of your audio and your audio tracks. You can add track-based effects and filters here as we go through our tracks. Dynamics, EQ, and these effects will be applied to the whole track. So all the clips that are on the same track here. The most important thing you need to know with the audio, we're not going to go too in depth with audio and buses and everything here, but Fairlight is great for viewing your average loudness. So right here, we want to go into 128, EBU 128, and absolute scale. So when you're playing back, as you play back, you'll see this integrated number. This will be your average program loudness. And what this is important for is for different outputs, different clients will want different average loudnesses for television or YouTube or streaming or whatnot. Okay, in order to export our project, we're going to go to the Export tab, and we're going to select our format, select video, and we can do QuickTime or MP4, or there are a variety of other formats. For this one, we're going to do MP4, and the resolution will usually be the default of your sequence size, but you can change that if you need to. And we're going to quality have and we're going to keep the quality to automatic for this one, and no multipass encode. This uses up a bit of time. So for audio, we're going to check the audio as well. For file, we're going to do either the timeline name or the custom name. So for this one, we're going to do the timeline name, so it recreates the same name as your timeline. Then we're going to browse and select our location. Select a folder, and once we have our location, we select add to render queue. So everything in this render queue will be rendered. There's a 1 in the queue now, and we click render all. And there you have it, your first rendered movie.